Okay. All right, new business. Wolverine Human Services.
Yeah, go ahead. Does anyone want a brief break? I have a feeling it's probably going to take a while, so. I can use it.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
I'm just going to go over the cover memo, and the rest of the information is background that we found via staff that supports what's going to be shared here. So dated July 21st, 2014, to the Vassar Planning Commission. It has been announced that Wolverine Human Services, located in the city of Vassar, is exploring a service contract with Heartland Alliance out of Chicago, Illinois, as a subcontractor to provide temporary shelter housing for male immigrants between the ages of 12 to 17 for up to 1 month at a time. The youth would come primarily from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. These youth males would receive medical care and basic education at the Wolverine Human Service facility in Vassar. The question has been proposed whether the proposed activity of providing temporary housing shelter for immigrants at the Wolverine Human Services is in compliance with the City of Vassar zoning code and/or approved issued permits by the Vassar Planning Commission and/or Vassar Zoning Board of Appeals. Chronological order of events regarding Wolverine Human Services. October 23rd, 1991, there's a memo from City Manager to City Council with the subject line reading, Pioneer Work Learn Center relocation to Vassar. November 4th, 1991, Vassar Planning Commission. A motion was made, seconded, and carried to present the Pioneer Work and Learn Center Plan Unit Development Site Plan contingent upon the successful annexation with favorable recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals for approval with special exception use. November 11th, 1991, City Council, Mr. Robert Wolick from Wolverine Human Services and Mr. Bill Haynes, Director of Pioneer Work and Learn Center, made a presentation regarding their camp in Kingston, Michigan. The City Council approved a resolution to annex 22 acres from Vassar Township. November 14th, 1991, Zoning Board of Appeals. Motion was made, seconded, and carried to grant a special exception use permit to Pioneer Work and Learn Center Planned Unit Development. HUD. The special land use application states the proposed use is special exception use, planned unit development, and the zoning district is unzoned. The attached letter addressed to Wolverine Human Services states there are no additional restrictions other than those listed in Ordinance 79G in Chapter 51, Title 5, Planned Unit Development. As a point of note, 79G ordinance per the boxes that we found was the home occupation ordinance at the time. January 13, 1992, Vassar City Council. Motion was made, seconded, and carried to submit to the Vassar Planning Commission the Vassar Estate Limited Partnership's request for rezoning of their planned unit development to the Planning Commission. February 3, 1992, Vassar Planning Commission. Motion was made, seconded, and passed to accept HUD changes. Motion was made, seconded, and passed to rezone the above described property, Pioneer Work and Learn, to I-2. March 9, 1992, Vassar City Council. Motion was made, seconded, and carried to approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission to rezone the following described property belonging to Wolverine Human Services to I-2. August 10, 1995, Vassar Zoning Board of Appeals. Proposal was submitted by Wolverine Human Services in a special meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for August 31st, 1995 to vote on this issue. August 14, 1995, Vassar City Council. Resolution was passed in support of the proposed expansion to the Pioneer Work and Learn Center in the Industrial Park. August 21st, 1995, Vassar Planning Commission. A motion was made, seconded, and approved for an amendment to the PWL, Pioneer Work and Learn, as proposed, and to refer the matter to the Zoning Board of Appeals for their August 31st, 1995 meeting. August 31st, 1995, Vassar Zoning Board of Appeals. A motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously to approve the special use exception for Pioneer Work and Learn pursuant to the Vassar zoning ordinance. November 7, 1995, First Amendment to Declaration of Restricted Covenants as to Vassar Industrial Park. Number 6, the following definition is added to the Clause 1 of the Restricted Covenants at the end of said clause. Vocational facility for juvenile offenders shall mean a facility, building, structure, or development which is used to provide educational and/or vocational training to juveniles. A vocational facility for juvenile offenders, counselors, and staff, as well as wilderness camps and/or boot camps, if such uses are auxiliary and directly related to the means by which the juveniles receive the education of vocational training. A Vocational facility for juvenile offenders shall not include any facility, building, structure, or development which has been classified or identified as high security or high security level by the Michigan Department of Social Services or the Michigan Department of Corrections. Recorded with Tuscola County Register of Deeds on January 2nd, 1996. As a note, the Declaration of Restricted Covenants was executed and recorded in 1985. It was concluded that the covenants expired June 17th or 18th, 2010, 25 years after the date of execution, and is no longer effect. June 23rd, 1997, Vassar City Council. Resolution was passed in support of Wolverine Human Services Camp No. 4 Boot Camp. June 25th, 1997, Vassar Zoning Board of Appeals. Motion made, supported, and carried unanimously to support the Pioneer Work and Learn proposed project. July 23rd, 1997, Vassar Planning Commission. A motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously to recommend to the ZBA that they approve an amendment to the Pioneer Work and Learn PUD allowing for the additional camp. July 24th, 1997, Zoning Board of Appeals. Motion was made, seconded, and passed to approve the amendment to the PUD. September 4th, 2012, ordinance number 2012-03. Ordinance number 2012-03 was passed and put into effect that amended Article 9, which is Article 9-1, Light Industrial Park, Section 86-302, Principal Uses Permitted by adding I, Correctional or Vocational Facility for Juvenile Offenders. In addition here, there's Article 11, which is the PUD Plan Unit Development District as of today. So the question that was proposed was there any restrictions placed on this application? The answer to that is no, based on the original application, which is put in the packet here, and I will read that letter for the record. It states, November 18th, 1991, addressed to Wolverine Human Services Incorporated, attention Mr. Robert Wolek. Dear Mr. Wolek, at the Vassar Board of Zoning Appeals meeting held at 8 p.m. on Thursday, November 14th, 1991, I was authorized to issue you a special exception use permit, which you will find enclosed. There are no additional restrictions other than those listed in Ordinance 79G, which I've shared to the group, which is the home occupation permit, or home occupation section, in Chapter 51, Title 5, Plan Unit Development. If you should have any questions concerning any restrictions which might apply to this permit, feel free to contact me at your convenience. Thank you for your time and assistance in this matter. If I can be of any further assistance, please feel free to call me at the number. Sincerely, signed, Michael T. LaChance, Zoning Administrator, Enclosure Zoning Permit, Special Use Permit, ZBA Minutes 11/14/91. As stated on the brief summary, there was no other additional restrictions placed on that permit when it came before the Planning Commission and ZBA under the PUD ordinance regarding the camps and the additions at Wolverine Human Services.
So the way I read this is we don't have, there's nothing, any
In
business that we need to.
In regards to the question was proposed about the use that was proposed and approved at the very original was for temporary shelter, which is for vocational facilities, vocational and correctional facilities for juvenile offenders. As a result, the clientele that has been announced in the media is from 12 to 17, which are considered juveniles. The use that is being proposed is the current use that is being used out there in regards to providing temporary shelter and vocational training, which is an education piece in regards to there. So at this aspect, myself acting as zoning administrator, as all the other city managers have, there's not really a change of use being proposed.
But these were for juvenile offenders. Are
Yes, it
these-
says repeatedly.
Are these,
These are
immigrant-
misplaced.
are these people that, are they offenders or are they misplaced? I mean, they're juvenile, but it says everything right here, it says we refer to juvenile offenders. Now we're gonna have juvenile
Misplaced
misplaced.
juveniles.
We're
As of
changing
right
the
now,
definition.
As of right now, the past practice is that we're not verifying the clientele being out there if they are offenders or not. They may be put out there prior to receiving a judgment by a judge. Does that make sense? They're not all convicted individuals. It can be an alternative to sentencing.
That's like, the cart before the horse.
Well, but
I mean, yeah, but that's something I think we may have to look into. Now, if they're not offenders, when they come here, I think we may have we may have we may have
Brad,
a legal problem there.
I'm thinking with, we are looking at this from two different sides here. Would it be possible for the city attorney to look at it and see which is the right way?
well, I had that discussion in regards to the youth aspect, because when the boot camp came, it was not necessarily all juvenile offenders, that was an alternative. They were not all, clientele were not all sent there from the court system to the records that I have. They could have been an alternative sentencing, or could have been dropped off by the individual for the parents. So as it's stated, we already have a precedent saying that it was not necessarily a requirement that the juvenile subject would have to be charged with a crime in order to be an eligible candidate for the facility.
And to go changing the rules here in the middle of the game,
You're saying
even
because
bigger troubles.
rules of government, basically.
Well, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying when, right, in regards to the additions that were put in with the additional aspects to the camps, being, if you want to call it camp 1, 2, 3, and 4, some of those were, the clientele was not always juvenile offenders in our view of that being ordered by the courts.
Did you got an attorney's
Yes.
opinion?
It has, the attorney has been consulted.
But not on this.
Yes,
Yes.
yes it has.
So there's
That
nothing we can
question
do.
was asked.
The question was asked of this, for our legal,
Yes.
I mean, even when it first, the inception, it was kind of directed towards these juvenile offenders. And it goes, where it's mentioned that all the time, even all the way through 2012.
Correct, in regards to juvenile offenders, but then it goes back to when the additions were requested through the planning commission and through the CPA, there was no additional restrictions put in those motions. And unfortunately, that would be the time to do something of that nature. Are you gonna add, are you have a board member question? You
No, I'm sorry, go ahead. What was
Ian.
it? Ian?
So, you know, assuming the attorney's right, I'm gonna have to, because I'm not an attorney, right? So this would seem to fall outside change of use, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, do we have a full understanding of what they're actually going to do other than this brief statement? Like, I mean, I think probably one of my biggest concern, I can keep everybody here, is like, what is this, you know? I mean, like there is something in here about, you know, people who don't pose a danger, you know, significant danger, you know, dangerous criminals, right? But if we don't even know if these people have diseases, they're vaccinated, have they really been triaged in terms of that? I mean, I would really like to know what the total plan is.
For clarity.
Right, exactly.
That request can be made and we can put that in the record in regards to that aspect of things. And I just want to make a comment regarding the health concern. Our health officer for Tuscola County, being at the health department, is aware. I have a call into her in regards to this. It's been firstly addressed, it's shared with me that this is not the first point of contact, that we are a secondary point of contact.
So the first pick is not.
Good. What if
It'd be across the board.
I custom it order.
Correct.
They-
But that, in regards to Mr. Rudnick's request, we can make a motion, I can draft a letter as a zoning administrator with these findings and say, at this time, based on previous use, we don't see one, but we want to verify with this new venture that it falls within that same use. And we can put, get it documentation purposes for that. That's, I think is a reasonable response.
It is a
In
reasonable
addition to
question.
that, we'd like to also find out what time, how long of a time do they, are they down there at the border crossing on our side? How long are they down there getting checked out before they end up getting sent up here? And what checks are there being done?
That's a medical question, that's not a zoning question.
Well, I know, but we'd like to know.
No, but it is a security, high security question.
I'm sure that our citizens would like to know how safe they are with some of these issues.
And I'm not gonna dispute that, but that's not a planning commission question.
No, it's not.
Planning is land use and zoning.
I mean, I'm just gonna throw the elephant in the room out there, right? There's a reason all these people are here, and it's not the
Correct.
swimming pool.
So, and they could be a health concern also, if not taken care of.
So, you know, what, I guess, as a planning commission, right, like, everybody in the city is concerned one way or another about this issue. Frankly, a lot of people in the country are concerned about this. Okay, so I think we as a city need to decide what we're gonna do. The power to do really anything is supposed to come from the people at the smallest level. You know,
Well said.
so, you know, I mean, I would like to see, if we're gonna decide to, as a city, to just say, you know, okay, great, that has nothing to do with the planning commission, this is the whole issue here. We're gonna say, great, you know, or no, we're not gonna have them here. Really, I think someone needs to present an actual plan, like the federal government, as to what they're doing. You know, that comes into our issue as a planning commission, that comes into the city's opinion, because we haven't heard really anything. I hear a lot of junk on the news from NPR, which is totally one side, and then like, you know, Hannity or whoever, that's totally the other side. And I don't know what to believe. I believe what Brad tells me, because I know him, because he lives, you know, in our city, you know, in our area, he works in our city. People here live here, we all have a vested interest. So, if Gary tells me something, I'm gonna believe him, you know? I would just like to have an actual, like, written document from the federal government saying, this is what our plan is, and
Well, we're not gonna get
I don't
that.
think they have a plan, do they?
They
Why
don't.
do they have a plan?
I don't see a plan.
But in regards to like the
I
overall,
don't see a plan.
in regards to this body here, in the land user and the property owner, that's the relationship that we have. So that request can be out. If they choose not to answer that, then that will become an enforcement issue under the zoning code, because the zoning administrator's asking, in order, we deem that it is based on the information that we have, not provided by you, that it's not a change of use. But if you're failing to comply to the request, then that does become an issue of, you know, of enforcement, because we want to guarantee and verify that the change of use is not occurring. And that request can be made from the zoning administrator under our code.
you hear what you're saying.
We also asked them about.
No, in regards to the change of use, about the use of the property, that being the temporary shelter and the vocational educational piece. And we said minors, so the juvenile being a minor, that's anybody under 17. Those are the three pieces right there.
Under 17.
Would be, yeah, 17 and under,
Oh, 17.
that's juvenile.
Can we check, can we also, there was one of the questions out here about security, and I know the security out there is pretty loose, these people get out all the time. Now, what are we gonna do about, what are they gonna do about security, are we gonna have to secure our own yards?
Well, the answer that I'm gonna have for that, Burl, is that that request or that mandate wasn't made on the original application. So as a result, it's not it's not a mandate as of today.
So we gotta control our own yards.
Well, I'm just making that, it wasn't a requirement under the original application in 1991, nor in 95, nor in 97. I understand that there's a proposed indifference of clientele. However, the use is not changing.
Well, I think though, we have this one phrase in here that says it shall not include any facility, building, structure, development that will include or be identified as high security or high security level.
And that's for the covenant, which that's the notes
That is
on
no
there.
longer on there.
It's no longer effective. So you have comments, Jerry, are you?
Okay, do we have any?
But they gotta come up to the podium.
Please come up to the podium, Raj.
Once again, my name is Roger Lish. You brought up on the proposals, covenant that you've made with the Wolverine Services, and you brought up the fact that there's nothing in there about the situation with illegals coming over here, children. It was, I think the last one you wrote and said was in '97. How could you foresee this in '97? We can't. You know, how could you foresee that if we have a government that no longer protects our borders? And that's the main thing. You brought up vocational training. When they have vocational training for troubled use, how long are they there on average? 6 months? 8 months?
I don't know.
These, what we're doing is setting up a transfer point. I mean, that's not that. They were also U.S. citizens. They probably use English as their main language, so we're gonna have to have interpreters brought in. And we can't depend on the federal government to give us the guidelines for anything, because they are flying by the seat of their pants right now. And all they care about is 2014, 2016. But I really want to emphasize the thing that how can we proceed this? You couldn't. This is why I'm asking to have an ordinance made to stop this, because it has to be stopped at the local level. Because that's it. If we don't start doing this at the local level, the national level just keeps right on rolling along. Thank you.
My name is Erica Engler. I'm a resident of Vassar Township, formerly city of Vassar, and know a little bit about Wolverine Human Services.
Erica, can you spell your last name for me?
Aymer. I just want to say with regards to the change of use, Wolverine Human Services has made countless statements to say that they are a facility to house first-time offenders of nonviolent crimes, in which we have records from the state, the courts, all of the backgrounds of these individuals. We're not going to have that from these illegals. We're not going to know their past, and we're not going to have a documented record of where they have been and what they have done. So to me, that seems like a change of use. They may not be first-time offenders of nonviolent crimes, and they may do more. And speaking of a security matter, I can speak personally that when 2 individuals escaped from Wolverine Human Services, they made it all the way to Ridgeville. They broke into St. Michael's School, vandalized it, and robbed the place. So if we're going to contain them in our town, and they're making it all the way to Ridgeville, we need something to protect our property and our citizens. That's it.
Thank you.
Jeff Backler, I'm a resident of Vassar. Just got a couple real quick questions. This change of, or rezoning that we're looking at doing, is that correct?
No.
Okay,
We're
so
not rezoning.
you're not deciding on anything?
No. There was a question brought by the chair in regards to Wolverine Human Services about the background, because I don't believe anybody here was on here in 1991. So in regards to the matter, and then there was a question at the city council meeting in regards to this topic in general. And it came down to a zoning and a land use question that was proposed, and that starts here at this level.
So at this point in time, there's no plan by the board, zoning board, to do any changes at all?
I believe there, and I'm not going to speak for the board member, but I believe there's going to be a request to send a request to Wolverine Human Services to outline their plan of action. And then if that is
What I'm trying to
responded to,
establish-
I'll give it to the board.
What I'm trying to establish is, does a zoning decision made by this group keep someone from coming here or not?
You know, I don't
Okay.
say that in a different way. I'm not
All
gonna-
right. Can this group make a zoning decision that would keep these illegal and entry immigrants from coming to this facility?
what you're saying is make a new ordinance right now.
Would that be, if that's what it would be? I don't know. I'm just saying, does this group have the authority to prevent those individuals from coming?
Are you saying, make, as she stated, make an ordinance saying we don't accept illegals in the city?
I'm saying whatever, I don't know what the legal terms is, what the zoning rules would be, I don't know any of that. My question, I think, is real simple. Is it within the ability of this group to put something in place, an ordinance or whatever it might be, that would prevent those individuals from coming to this facility here in Madison?
We could probably vote on something like that, but it could be questioned by.
Okay. All right. Last quick question. Again, I think similar to what the first gentleman was saying, we could not have foreseen this type of thing coming back in even '88 or something when this
91.
facility first started. Okay. But it just seems to me that with the world the way it is these days, that U.S. citizens maybe should be at some point in time added to this. Just a personal opinion. Thank you.
Well, things always change as time goes along, and just like after.
And as things have changed numerous
Just
times.
after 9/11, we came out with all kinds of new Home Security Act, we had,
Why can't we do something about that then, or no?
It's probably not anything I believe you could fix right now today, but I'm thinking that in the future, as more updates and things happen, maybe that is something that should be put in there for future. I guess it's the opinion of the board, but I just want to ask that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. We probably cannot stop this one right now, but we could, with our attorneys, stop later on, some more coming.
You can always request by motion a change of an ordinance or review change of an ordinance, which we've done in the past. Typically, it was a motion to review a section of the ordinance, and then, in essence, what the ultimate goal of for the body is, and then we've reviewed it and gone through that. So if someone wants to make a motion after this point, we'll put it back on the agenda if it does get approved.
What I'm saying though is to stop,
Like, motion.
change it right this minute.
No.
Could we or would we not end up being similar to Frankwood, that means we were changing something?
Our
When something
ordinance
is already in place,
Our-
and something could be happening, and if you change the rules right this second for this group,
well, it's not going to happen.
That would be like an ex post facto.
Right. Just to share with everybody in regards to a zoning ordinance change, it requires at least a 3-meeting minimum with 2 public hearings. So nothing will get approved within 2 or even a 24-hour period. The process works typically is that it starts here, we discuss it for those descriptions and changes, then there's a motion made by this board to hold a public hearing at the planning commission level the following month, which we do. It's put in the newspaper, people can make public comments if they choose to do so, and then at that time, the planning commission has the decision either to make those necessary changes and recommend it to go to the city council or condemn. If it is made to go forward to the city council, then the city council by ordinance or by charter has 2 readings, that being it'll be in 1 month for a first reading, and then it's a request of the city council to then make a motion to approve a second reading and a public hearing. And then if that does happen, then it's put on that following month's agenda, and then we hold that public hearing again. The people have a right to communicate to city council, and then it's up to a vote of city council to approve that ordinance if they choose to. If they choose not, then it is dead. If they choose to approve it, then per charter, we have to publish it in the newspaper for an effective date. So minimum, it's 90 days. And typically, it's more like 120 days.
so, because you don't have special counsel, you
Yep.
have special meeting.
I think we have an obligation to do just that.
I know we got
I'd like to do just
I
that.
do.
How do we get this
I have
started?
a question.
Right.
And this is I guess this is my question, because these gentlemen both brought up this, the word is illegal. In my estimation, if they're illegal coming into the country, they're illegal here in Vassar. And I guess my question is, can we make an ordinance where we do not allow illegals in the city?
That's something that we have to consult with the attorney.
Could. There, I believe, in Arizona, they were law enforcement, they were actually enforcing federal immigration law, and they were forced to stop by the federal government or interfered with. Sued, I think, by the Department of Justice. I don't know, I don't remember all the details, but I remember that there was a great deal of legal trouble, which is unfortunate, but, you know, so I don't know.
That was eventually resolved, sir, that was eventually resolved and they were allowed to enforce the law.
Yeah. The other question, when you're talking about juvenile offenders, you need to stop and remember these people, whoever they are, when they came across, they are an offender because they now are, they came
Well,
across
that's another-
illegally, so
that's
they
a
are
good
an
point.
offender now.
So I guess they would qualify then, because they are juvenile
They are an
offenders.
offender. They have broken the law, so they are an offender,
Automatically,
unfortunately.
But they're not.
But wait a minute, but they're offenders, according to federal, the federal definition. They don't come with you, but they haven't charged them. I don't even know what they call them misplaced, they're not even offenders.
But isn't that why they?
But in our mind, our definition of, yeah, they have, but then obviously the federal government doesn't.
I know, I'm just being the
I mean, yeah, I know.
advocate of the fact that unfortunately
That's
they
a
would
good
be
point.
offended.
That's a good point.
We have Wolverine, now they're supposed to rehabilitate and both.
Can only one person talk at a time so we can hear?
Hold on a
please?
second. Yeah, you're too many here at one time. One more question here from
Yes, I have more comment than a question. My name is Chuck Whitney. When we first broke the shores and came to this big piece of real estate, we were afraid of the Indians, so we shot them, killed them, all of them we could. But you know, a lot of those Indians are very productive people in our society. When the Chinese were brought over to work the railroads, oh my gosh, the slammers, in our country. Some of our best people are where you sent. When the Polish came to this country to work the factories, oh, what they would do to us. How many people do we know whose name ends in speech? I guess I could go on for quite a while there, but we have many. The Japanese were the one that I wanted to especially mention. We got so fearful of anyone of Japanese descent, we built huge prisons, huge prison camps to throw them all in prison because they were Japanese. Hey, we got some pretty good Japanese people in our country doing some pretty good things. A lot of people came to this country because they ran out of potatoes. Okay, well, you know about all the mix that are in this country. That's because their name starts with Mick. I see fear. I see fear all through here. I see a little bit of fear in a lot of us. But we really don't need to have fear. We need to just be conscious of people. I'm not, now I'm talking my own personal opinion. I don't want to see any more videos of people sleeping in cardboard boxes. And that's about it. I've been in Mexico and there's someone pretty close to just that. I don't want to see that. I don't want us to be responsible. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Wade, where are you at? Where are you?
Yeah, 527 Grant Street.
Oh, you're gonna say, okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else be at 5?
Oh, sorry. Right, this will be,
Okay. Not really more of a comment than a question once again. Reminding you guys that the primary purpose of government is to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of those of us in the community. And your decision should be based on that. I want to make it quite clear that these people who are crossing the border, they're being detained briefly, they're being hastily distributed around the country, anywhere that they can be sent without organized resistance to get them where they're going. They have not been properly vetted. We don't know if these so-called children are criminals. We do not know if they belong to gangs. We do not know what offenses they may have been involved in. We're assuming, because we're being told by our federal government, that they're safe. How many of you trust what's coming from the federal government lately?
No.
I certainly don't. They have their own agenda. And that agenda is to get these people placed quickly so that they can be absorbed into the general public in a rather underhanded fashion. Another thing that I want to point out is, we're not talking about 60 kids. My understanding is that Wolverine is going to continue this process, that they're going to be rotating groups through that facility on an ongoing basis. Whether it's 60 first of all or 120, we don't know what the number is today. We see that, the story changes every time they open their mouths over there.
No.
So we don't know when they're coming. We do know that they're going to rotate them through. The more they rotate through there, the more chance there is for a risk to health, safety, and welfare. If you don't think so, then I want you to be there when the bus shows up. And I want you to shake hands with each person coming off the bus and let me know.
I will.
If you think that there may not be carriers of medical resistant tuberculosis, fine, prove it. Go over and shake their hand. Let them talk to you. They're not being vetted. We don't know what they're bringing to our community.
You don't know what you're
So why should we be allowing this to happen, to endanger us, so that Wolverine can make $3.1 million for 4 weeks worth of work?
Brad, can you share your opinion about us, or is it confidential?
It's confidential at this time.
Are you sharing with the council, or?
It's
You
gonna
sent
be
them
up.
a hard copy,
They did not get a hard copy yet, and we discussed with them also.
but they
They will be, they've been shared the original packet.
because I
with you
really think
guys.
that this board, I can see a lot of concerns, people on the board, but I believe that we need to go with the attorney's opinion. If you don't trust the attorney's opinion, ask for another attorney's opinion. It's a whole lot better than being sued, because you're trying to change. These kids are on their way. They're on their way. We've allowed, and I'm just worried if you send them, if we have always allowed them to bring in, we've trusted them to bring in kids that are, following under the plan that they have, we can't change that. If you try to change, without an attorney's opinion, otherwise we're gonna be sued. Wolverine has just as much, they have more money than we do.
They've also lied to the community about what they might go on in their house.
Well,
Unless you work there or have a family member that.
Hey,
has-
you are you speaking
I
out
do
of order.
have,
I
I
have
have
to
a son that teaches every single child out there. My baby, do you really, believe that? Would I shake their hand? Where's ever the gentleman? Yes, I would. I'm letting my child shake their hand.
Why is she talking out of order?
Well, I just think that we, as board, as the city, we need to be very careful with the league. And I see the concerns. There's a lot of concerns here. But I don't, I can remember when Frankenmuth wanted to bring in Walmart, and the people just bombarded every place. They did not want Walmart in Frankenmuth.
Well, you know what? They're paying a good $4 million now because they changed the game. Or they changed the rules in the middle of the game. Vassar doesn't have $4 million.
Their insurance is.
You got a good point.
Their insurance, you really think their insurance is gonna carry them?
It was good.
But how much do the attorneys cost?
I'm just saying, it's.
I'm just saying, that's what's happened. I'm just.
Frankly, we thought it was worth that amount, and they did. So if it's worth it, then it's worth doing.
You think this is worth the $4 million every?
You're talking hypothetical, you're saying, are we gonna get sued?
So in regards,
I'm just saying.
you have one more comment?
She was first.
Are you gonna?
Help me up
Okay.
there. I didn't bring my keys.
No, you can speak for minutes.
That's okay.
Talk real
Let's
loud.
just talk real loud.
All right.
Maybe we can move the
Well, I
line.
can talk loud, believe me. Don't worry about it, no.
Sure?
Yeah, I gotta, I'm not starting up. All right.
Where are you going?
I just gotta get my feet under me. Okay, I'm listening to all this, and I'm thinking, all of you are speaking without any knowledge of what the hell you're talking about. You know that? Believe me, that's hard to listen to you. I've been around this world long enough to know this time to get your, before you start talking and coming here and making your big fat comments about how terrible Vassar is. We're doggone good people and we're smart people. And we know how to take care of our town. And we don't need all you insiders running in here and telling us what we're doing is wrong. And if any of you gone out to Pioneer and talked to them, anybody got any comment, any stuff from them? Anyone? You're very foolish to speak up when you don't know what you're talking about. Because you don't. The process they're going through is the same process the kids have gone through here in town. The ones that have been here. And it's a very good process. And I'm not saying, I've told every one of you that were out on the picket lines and everything, you want to do some good for this city, this country, get yourselves a bus and get down to the border and stop it there. That's where it's got to be stopped, not after they get in this country. When they get in this country, we've got to do something for them. And that's a few weeks of giving them some good food and some a little bit of education they can get before they take them and then put them back. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to take them back to that, or they have relatives there in the United States, and they'll find their relatives, and the relatives are going to have to help them be responsible for them. But they're not going to just dump them on the city. They're not going to dump them on the country now when Pioneer gets them. And the federal government did that. They dumped them on us. And nobody's doing anything about that before they can do anything, and that's at the border. But let Pioneer have a little chance to do something. If we're not going to at least check with them and listen to what they're going to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one question for you, Brandon, on this. The Declaration of Restrictive Covenants was executed before 1985, but they expired.
Correct.
Did they just expire on their own?
Correct. The original document had an expiration that they were only good for 25 years.
Would it be worth looking into something to be reestablished?
That's done mutually among all of the property owners when they originally were done. As a result, I'm going to just take a stab in the dark and say not all of the property owners out there will probably limit their abilities for those lands and sign on such a document. It was not put on by the city, it was done among the property owners at that time. And as you can see with the amendments that are there, they were signed by all of the property owners at that time in the industrial park.
Would there be, do you think it would be wise to look into a review of this next meeting?
We've had conversations at the EDC level in regards to that, and I don't think it's worth your time for.
Is it even in our ground?
Well, no, I'm just saying in regards to, it has to be, you gotta get all of the parties involved, and they all have to sign off of it. So I'm just gonna just say this, I don't know how else to say. If someone thinks they're gonna get picked on during that process, they're probably not gonna come to the table and sign off on it. So I don't think that's the best use of time. It's a done deal. I reported it as a fact of point in 1995 in the process here because they had to change them for this use as a result, but there's also a point to make that they expired. They're done. In the 2000s, those property owners didn't think it was worthwhile, nor did it come up to say, you know what, we need to renew these. So it's a point made, it's 2 point made regarding that.
Well, at this point, like Ian said, can't we send some documentation out to Wolverine just to verify that the use in their mind hasn't changed? You talked about maybe.
Yeah, zoning administrator in regards to the, over what was reviewed of the past documentation of what we currently know what their processes are. A letter can be said, if those continued processes are being made, please document that, and there would be no change of use. So for documentation purposes. If they fail to comply, that's a whole other conversation to have.
And at that point, we can possibly move on with some of the other conversations about revisiting, ordinance itself.
Yep. And we've made those motions in the past, that being with board members asking to review a specific section and such, that, their request, what section it is, and we would put on the following month's agenda.
Okay. Somebody would like to make a motion for that? So we'd like to, next month, put on the agenda for, make a motion for reviewing the ordinance itself,
Yeah, I'll make that one.
Which ordinance?
the one concerning the usage that Wolverine is using.
So the permitted use for
Permitted use,
and it's in essence, just for clarity purposes,
Right.
the permitted use is in I-1 in our ordinance, and anything that's permitted use in I-1 is also a permitted use in I-2. That property out there is zoned I-2, but I just don't want to get anybody confused. It would be for permitted uses in I-1, which is light industrial.
whatever their use is, that's what we want to review. And so that we could we could possibly make any amendments for any future situations that may occur in the future that are like this. So maybe you may not want to have the same results, potentially.
So what are your proposed amendments for clarity purposes?
What we just did prior to the review that ordinance.
So I have who's supporting that?
I don't know if you need to.
I heard, yeah, I have Binder as the motion maker, is that
Right.
Okay. I have motion by Binder to review ordinance for the permitted use in I-1 for amendment purposes for future uses. That's the motion I have.
So we would be amending that.
Does not, my motion just says review.
They'll start to review it first, then we'll have to work on it. If there need to be anything more done, we'll work on it after we review it. I'll second that.
So again, I have a motion by Binder, supported by Casper, to review ordinance for permitted uses in I-1 to make amendments for future uses. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? If there's a group no, silence means a yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, order of the chair, what's your determination? There's a lot of silence. Is it passing?
Sounds like it passed to me. I didn't hear any nays. Any nays?
I have one abstention.
Okay, yeah. Yes, it passed.
Okay. I think there's gonna be another motion on the floor.
Is there another motion, Joe?
I guess I'll make the motion to ask Pioneer for in documentation furthering their plan for the use specific to this application, I guess, or notification of their future intended use.
in regard to the proposal for temporary shelter.
Right, temporary shelter of the legally owned.
Motion by Rednick, request from Wolverine Human Services documentation regarding their current use and similar use for temporary shelter regarding, you know, we put.
The legal
Okay.
aliens.
Regarding,
Yep. It was effective.
it's your motions.
Second.
Motion by Rednick, supported by Binder, request from Wolverine Human Service documentation regarding their current use and I'm gonna put proposed similar use for temporary shelter regarding the legal aliens. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Any other motions? Motions on this one? Do we have any more comments?
Just very, very brief comment. I know, and I think most of us know, we are a nation of immigrants, and immigrants have built this nation to a wonderful, great country it is. At the same time, those immigrants came here legally. Well,
It wasn't.
yes, we should go in 1700 or something. Okay, if you don't want to go with that, then I'm just going to leave here. We're bringing in thousands of kids that are between the ages of very young up to 17, 18, and 19. Now, this facility is only supposed to take them up to 17.
Juveniles.
Okay, juveniles. But they're coming in, like crazy. So I understand the issue of we want to have compassion for these poor children. And the government now wants us to give them $3.7 billion to help these poor children. It sounds like a great thing to help these poor children. We have poor American children who need help. We have vets that need help. We have all these other people who need help. At what point do we stop this? Let's just say we do it, and we bring these kids in, and we help these poor kids. There are millions of kids in this world who are far less fortunate than the kids here in the United States. Do we stop at 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, a million, 10 million? Where do we stop? We can't take care of every child in the world, regardless how bad